Good morning, good day, good afternoon, whatever you decide. We are so excited that you have tuned in to the Christian Authors on Tour TV show. This is another opportunity for you to learn about Christian authors from all over the globe who are using writing as a tool for Christian ministry. I have a little different segment today and I'm going solo. A shout out to Pastor Kevin Wayne Johnson and Leroy McKenzie Jr. They are my standard co-hosts, but they're both on vacation, and so you're going to have me solo for the next 2 weeks. But we're really excited. This is August 2018. We have 5 Fridays. So whenever we have a month with 5 Fridays, we always include one Friday as what we call an author resource day. And so today is our author resource day, and I have 2 dynamic people. I have Ertha Harris, who's like my sister from another mother.
That's right.
And I have this awesome gentleman here, Edwin.
Awesome.
Edwin Avent, right? And they're going to talk to you a little bit today. If you are a Christian author, if you are an aspiring author, and you're just having some money, financial struggles, they're going to talk to you today and just give you some insight and information about a book that you wrote to really support people on that avenue. But before we do that, I have to do a few announcements. So first off, I want to thank all of you. Wow, I've been getting so many Facebook notices, posts, email messages, and I just really appreciate your support. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the CAOT TV show on the WBGR Gospel Network. I'm so thankful for Lionel Green and Tim Day for making this possible. And so what we need you to do, we want you to continue watching the show, but we also would appreciate if you would share the show and also post it on your page. And that's how we get more support to be able to do what we do. We also want you to pray for the people. You know, we have some serious stuff going on in our lives, right? And we all believe in the power of prayer. And so we'll pray for you and you pray for us. And we want to encourage you to come on out on October the 14th. It's not far away. And we are having a wonderful event called the Introducing the Ladies of Christian Authors on Tour. Back in April, Ertha, we had the men of Christian Authors on Tour, right?
It was awesome.
Yes, and we had a wonderful time. So I got a lot of feedback from the ladies, and they were saying, when are you going to have something for the women members of Christian Authors on Tour? And so we're really excited. If you enjoy reading Christian books, if you enjoy fellowship and dialogue, I jokingly post on Facebook, bring your mothers, sisters, daughters, aunties, grandmothers, bring everybody out. And the gentlemen, you can come out and support as well. It's October 14th, that's a Sunday, from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Quality Inn.
It's 1800 Belmont Avenue, the Quality Inn.
Yes.
And then I'm also decided that I would like them to stay around and we do a little meet and greet, because sometimes it's nice to socialize, and so you guys can come out and meet each other after the session.
Yes.
We need to really have a good time together. It's some interesting people all over the world.
Yes.
So sometimes we just need to stop and talk to each other. So stay around for the little meet and greet afterwards.
Absolutely. And so if you want more information about the Ladies of Christian Authors on Tour literary event, please visit us online at www.christianauthorsontour.com. Now that's that Sunday, and then that Monday we're going to follow up on your radio show.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about your radio show?
Yes, the Tight Knit Radio Show. We talk about solutions and opportunities. It's a great opportunity for you guys to put out there, especially if you're book authors. A lot of times you write books for a purpose, and people don't understand that that's a tool that we can use. Me and Edwin always talk about getting back on track. So this is an opportunity for you authors to, you can call in if you can't come in, but it's Mondays at 10 o'clock on WOLB 1010 AM, Kathy Hughes radio station. She's a great supporter of getting good information out.
Absolutely. So mark your calendars, October 14th. And the best thing of all is that this is a free event. It's free. We have Deborah, Sally, we have France Neptune, we have Tracy Lydia Garner, we have a number of dynamic and powerful women Christian authors. Our MC for that day is Andrea Freeman Green. You will just have a ball. So come on out, come on out, come on out. You'll get more information. Look us up on Facebook. You can find the CAO TV Facebook page or the Christian Authors on Tour group to get more information. And if you're not an internet person, although this is an internet TV show,
so you should be an internet person. Well, someone shared it with you, and then you got that.
Whatever the case, if you say, I don't like that computer thing, I don't like the email, you can give us a call. The telephone number is 800-929-1418. So I want to start this conversation this morning. We have a number of authors that watch us, that participate in the dialogue here. We have a number of people who are aspiring authors, and many of us are facing what we call that money crunch. You know, it costs money to publish a book.
Absolutely.
And so what advice can you give to someone who's saying, hey, I want to, write a book, but my credit is like...
Okay. Well, first of all, Lynn, I just want to say thank you for having Ertha and myself on today.
Yes. Thank you.
Love talking about how we can help our community get back on track. And I'm sure a lot of these authors are writing books about how they got their lives on track and how God helped them to, head in the right direction. But a lot of times we need help when it comes to our money. And sometimes when we want to get things going, whether we want to buy a home, whether we want to get our kids into the right schools, or we want to build our own businesses. And a lot of our authors are entrepreneurs, right?
Yes, they are.
So they want to build their business. They want to, some of us have to publish our own books and sell them at the trunk of our cars, right?
A lot of us.
So a lot of us do. So in order to do that, you don't always need a lot of cash to get going. A lot of times what you need is good credit, right? And so a lot of the things that people are dealing with their credit, particularly with what's on their credit report, are things that they can deal with themselves, right? So I wrote a book along with Sharon Craig. The book is called Credit Score Hacks.
All right.
8 Ways to Raise Your Score.
Wow.
Okay? And so what we try to do in this ebook is really help people with some tips on what they need to do to actually increase their credit score. And what a lot of people don't realize is that a couple of years ago, the government passed something called the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Wow.
And when they passed the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it allowed individuals to be able to kind of take control of their credit destiny, right? Because a lot of the things that are showing up on our credit report are erroneous. Okay, so
we talked
about some of the stuff that's on there isn't even right. And what the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that everything that shows up on your credit report has to be reported in a timely fashion. It has to be 100% verifiable, and it has to be 100% accurate. And if it's not any one of those things, you can ask them to remove it. Okay. And so what we want the authors to understand is, because I know a lot of them are sitting out there saying, man, I'm so tired of my credit score sitting in the 500s or the low 600s. What can I do? Or why is it like this? And so what I like to start off by doing is helping them to understand what goes into a credit score, right?
All right.
So I want to add this. One of the things that dealing with the clients, Lynn, is that remember he said, reporting. A lot of people don't even know what's reported. So one of the things that we encourage everyone to do is to get a copy of your credit report. We're talking about don't wait till you get into a situation where you're trying to get the money, get the house, get the car. You should know right now, today, regardless of what your goals are, pull your credit report.
Right. Ertha makes an excellent point. And that's where we all have to start. And we're all entitled to, because of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, we're entitled to a free copy of our credit report every year from those big 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Experian. They have to give us a credit report. Now, what they don't have to give us is our credit score. But they do have to give us our credit report. And when we get our credit report, we can see what's on there. We can see all of our credit transactions. And so something that, some people wonder a lot of times, like, do things like my electric bill show up on there or things like that? No, your utility bills don't show up. It's the things that you've done with credit, whether it's you're buying a car or it's buying a house or student loans or your credit cards.
Right.
Or when you don't pay these things, they will show up. So that's another problem some people have. Some things aren't reported until they become derogatory.
Become a collection.
Okay.
Again.
Right, and then it shows up. So you really have to be able to understand you're building your credibility.
Yes.
So when you're building your credibility, you use the credit report to say, okay, let me use this as a tool and see where did I go wrong and what happened that I have these derogatory items. So a lot of people also can positively call agencies and ask them to report.
Yes.
So like you might be renting and the renter doesn't report that you're renting and paying rent, but you might want to say, I want you to report that because then someone will see that I am paying my rent on time.
Yes.
Right? So there's some things that you may also want to encourage to be reported because the whole idea of a credit report is, hey, Edwin, can you lend me $100? And he's trying to determine, am I credible that he's going to get his $100 back?
Yes, and that's something that's very relevant to many of the authors. Many of the authors, like you said, are self-published. It takes money to self-publish. They might try to get a loan, or they might decide to put it on their credit card.
Right.
You know, and so having this type of knowledge will definitely make them more attentive in terms of making the right decisions.
Right. And so I want to go back to what I was getting ready to talk about, which is what goes into the credit score.
Okay.
So most people know of the term FICO, right?
Yes.
But they don't know what FICO means. And so FICO is it's short for Fair Isaac and Company. That was the company that developed the algorithm that looks at your credit worthiness.
Yes.
Right? So it's all these different elements go into that algorithm to look at is this person trustworthy? You know, do they live within their means? Do they live above their means? Do they pay things on time? Do they pay things late? All these things go into this algorithm.
Yes.
And so what I want to talk about is what is in that algorithm. So the first 35% of what's in that algorithm is your payment history.
Okay.
Do you pay things on time? Now, if you want to have a high credit score, pay everything on time and do it for a long period of time. So the longer you have, credit, and if you've been paying it on time all the time, it really positively impacts your credit score.
Okay.
Now, what can really damage your credit score, I mean, like in an instant, is a late payment, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, foreclosures. But what a lot of people don't understand, well, I was only late one time. One late payment, one 30-day late can drop your credit score 80 points.
Wow.
Can drop it by as much as 80 points. So your payment history makes up 35%. That's a heavy weight. Because what we don't understand is that credit scores go from 300 to 850. Okay. The bottom of 300 to 850. So you're working with 550 points. And so if you took 35% of that 550, if you're late, you can see how much that could have a weight on your whole thing, right? Then the next part, the next 30% deals with your revolving debt ratio. So now what's revolving debt? There's just two different types of debt. There's installment debt and then there's revolving debt. Installment debt is anything like your loans, your car payment, your car loan, your student loan, your mortgage. Those are loans, and those are installment debt.
Because they have a term that's going to end. So they say 36 months, you're done.
With
2 years, you're done.
You'll be finished.
Right, you'll be finished. Right.
With revolving debt, however, you can charge up, pay down, charge up, pay down. So that's why it's revolving. It goes up and down. You can charge up, pay it down, and so it stays open as long as you keep paying. Okay. Now, so 30% of our credit score looks at that revolving debt ratio, and so what does that mean? It says that if you look at the total limit of all your credit cards, credit card, there's two different types of credit cards. You have your major credit cards, your Visa, your MasterCard, your American Express, your Discover, and then you have your retail cards like your Macy's. See how old I am. I'm telling them
For
myself.
those of us who live in the D.C., Virginia, Maryland area.
Right, we remember X,
X,
right?
yes, we do.
But our retail cards, everything that's not a major credit card is considered retail, right?
Yes.
And so what this revolving debt ratio looks at is all of that combined. And how much limit do you have? Do you have a total of $10,000 worth of credit limit? You got $1,000 on this card, $2,500 on this card, a $5,000 card, and whatever. When you combine it all together, you have $10,000 worth of credit limit. What this looks at is how much of that credit limit are you using?
Yes.
You know, are you at 80%? If you're at 80%, you got $8,000 worth of charges on there. You're using up a lot of your credit, and it depresses your credit score. But credit scores begin to go up when you go below 30%. So you go below 30%, credit scores go up. You go above 30%, credit scores go down. In the ideal world, you're keeping it down below 10%. We're not saying be at zero, because if you leave your cards at zero, it doesn't show the credit bureaus that you know how to use credit or that you're utilizing it. So why give you any more? A lot of times you'll notice, like if you have a Macy's card, they start you off at 1,000, but you don't use it, they reduce it down to 100. Okay, so that shrinks your credit limit. So you do kind of want to use it, but you want to keep it between 1 and 10%. If you do that, it's helping your score. So that's 30%.
Now,
so remember, the first 35%.
Most consumers want to know how to use that card. Because remember, so he says keep it down, but you want to say, okay, so how do I use it? Like, do I use it in the next 30 days, 15 days? Because one of the problems that most people have is that if I charge $1,000 and I have a $1,500 credit limit, right? So am I paying that $1,000 off within 30 days, 15 days? Because like you say, you want to pay it down. Now, some people don't have the opportunity because their financial situation. But what we say to them, pay as much as you can. Because the more you pay down, say you might only pay $300, but then next month you pay another $300. But you don't want to pay $300 and then go charge back up another $300. So if you pay $300 this month, $300 next month, now you're down to $600, right? So one of the things that a lot of guys need to do is really create a budget, create a plan of action, because we tell people you didn't come up with a what if plan. So remember, Edwin said you had $10,000 worth of debt, right? Suppose you lose your job. Suppose something else, your roof fall in, something else that you could have used that, or you, then you don't have a what if plan. So when you're trying to do the steps that he say. One of the counseling things I do to people, and when the first step, like you said, how do we pay on time? Use some tools. Go to the bank and set up a payment.
Automatic payment. You can do it online. You can do it on the app. You can just set, I want to pay this bill every month on the 13th, and let it automatically pay, so that you don't forget.
And it gives you an idea of a budget. So if you have all your bills set up and you say, this is what I'm gonna pay a month. At the end of the day, you're gonna say, well, shoot, I kick out $2,500 in bills. So if you're kicking out $2,500 in bills, you may want to say, I need to look over at my savings and start building that area up. So when I fall in trouble losing my job, I may have 2 or 3 months that I can hold myself down. So go, and another reason why you want to go to your bank, again, things happen, be in control, because a lot of people will offer you to set up automatic payments, right? But you might say, wait a minute, 15th, I ain't got it. I'm going to change that sucker to the 17th. So if you're setting it up on your bank, you can physically go in and change dates. If you set it up on your bank, you can go on vacation and don't worry about not meeting those situations.
Absolutely.
So Ertha, and we're going to get into, particularly when we get into the part about the hacks. Like that's when Ertha's saying some of the hacks that we're going to get into, those 8 hacks. But what I want to finish really helping people understand is what makes up a credit score, so that when we get into the hacks that she's describing, now it makes sense to you. It's coming together. So once again, the first 35% is our payment history. Do we pay things on time? The next 30% is our revolving debt ratio. How much of the available credit are we using? The next 15% is our average age of file. How old is the credit that you have? The older, the better. So if you've been a member of American Express since 2000, that's great. Because 7+ years is ideal. If all your credit is less than 7 years, it doesn't help your score as much. But if you have longer than 7 years, it helps your credit score a lot better. So sometimes when people have been dealing with this debt, it's just been hanging there. This thing has been sitting at $5,000, and I can't wait till I get that income tax check. I'm going to pay this whole thing off to zero. I'm going to close that card. Pay it down, but don't close the card. Okay? Pay it down to below 10%, but don't close the card, because that card might have been a 17-year-old card. That helps the average age of file. Okay? Then the next 10% is your mix of credit. That's all of this stuff, once again, is what's going into this FICO scoring model.
Yes.
So 10% is your mix of credit. Everyone should have at least one installment loan,
Okay.
so that's your student loan, your car loan. One retail card, your your Macy's
Macy's.
card.
Victoria
Macy's
finger hugs.
card.
Most of y'all got finger hugs. So
Your Victoria's Secret card.
Yeah.
And 2 major credit cards.
Okay.
So 1 installment loan, 1 retail card, and 2 major credit cards.
Okay.
You should have those as a minimum. Now you can have more of each one, but you don't want to have not one. You don't want to be without an installment loan
Okay.
and these other 2, because that's not helping your score. You don't want to just have an installment loan and a retail card because you don't have the major credit card. The major credit cards are heavy hitters.
And we're laughing, we're saying Macy's, but when you say retail, it could be a Ross card.
It could be a Ross card.
Right.
It's just anything.
Right.
That's
I would
not-
say finger hug. Finger hug is easy to get.
Right.
Anything
Right.
that's not Visa, MasterCard, American Express,
Absolutely.
Discover, but they give you credit.
Yes.
Okay, those
Yes.
anything like we call that retail.
Yes, and I'm
Okay.
so glad we're having this conversation because oftentimes, as authors, and you know this, doing your book, you're so focused on getting the book done,
Yes.
writing the book. I mean, you're for weeks, for months, sometimes even for years, you're trying to bring this into fruition. So then you get the book, and you have it. And then you forget that you need a marketing plan. And it's the same with the finances. You forget that it costs money to go on tour. It costs money to hire, someone to do your book design.
Right.
It costs money to be able to publicize and promote your book.
Right.
And if you haven't properly prepared, you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh my goodness,
Right.
I don't know what to do. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to have you two on the show is to make sure that authors are thinking about this
Right.
long term, not just on the personal side of,
Right.
wanting to have the house, wanting
Right.
to have, to be
Right.
able to go and travel at your leisure, being financially secure in your retirement, but also as authors,
As
being
business
able,
people.
as business, as
Right.
authorpreneurs, as Leroy always says, my other co-host, Leroy McKenzie Jr., how to make sure that you're
Right.
financially able to
Right.
do that.
Well, then the last piece in the
Okay.
FICO scoring model deals with inquiries.
Okay.
Right? And so the inquiries is when people do what's called a hard pull from your credit report.
Okay.
So if you apply for a credit card, you apply for a car loan, you
Yes.
apply for anything, it's called a hard pull. Now, we all can do a soft pull every day. If you got Credit Karma, if you got something like that, you can see your credit score, you can look at your credit report. That's called a soft pull when we look at our own stuff. It's
Okay.
when we ask somebody, can we borrow money from them, that they do what's called a hard pull,
Yes.
and that's called an inquiry, and that makes up 10%. So
Okay.
let's
Or
once
checking
again,
your credibility.
Yeah, your credibility. So once again, I just want to
Yes.
sum this up so we can move on,
Okay.
because it's really important to understand what is my credit score made of. It's made of 35% is your payment history, 30% is your revolving debt ratio.
Okay.
Keep it below 30%. 15% is your average age of file. Hold on to those credit cards as long as you can. 10% is your mix of credit. Make sure you got a loan, a retail card,
Okay.
2 major credit cards, and the last one is inquiries. Don't keep pulling your credit. Okay? Because every time you do an inquiry, it can hit you from 1 to 10 points.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't really realize that. So now, one of the things I will suggest that when on the inquiries is, if say if you're shopping for a car, try and do it in a shorter period of time, like
Yes.
a weekend or a week, right?
Or to
So
a
if you
couple
go
of
to five,
dealerships.
if you go to
Yes.
5 dealerships and all 5 pull your credit,
Yeah.
instead of it being 5 pulls, the FICO scoring model looks at that as 1 pull because they can see that you're shopping.
Yes.
But if you went this month and looked at a car and they pulled it, and then you went this month and looked at the car and they pulled it, and you went this month, now that's 3 different ones as opposed
That's
to
good
being
to
looked
know.
at as 1.
Yes.
Okay? And like I said, each one of those can count. So now that makes up the FICO scoring model.
Okay.
All right? And so now people are saying, oh, this is what goes into my FICO score.
Yes.
And so what Ertha has been pointing out along the way is
Yes.
she's actually telling you some ways to handle it. And
Yeah.
what our book does, what we talk about in the book are these 8 hacks
Okay.
on how you can actually increase your credit score. So I want to touch on the first one. The first one is do not close your credit cards. And
Yeah, you
that goes
talked
back
about
to
that.
which point? That
Right.
goes back to average age of file, right?
Yes.
So we don't want to close the credit cards. We might want to pay down the balances,
Yes.
but we don't want to close those credit cards
Okay.
because the more we have them. See, what some people don't understand, if you had a late payment, right, in 24 months or so, it begins to fade away, right? It may still be on there, but if you looked at the credit report, you would see nothing but green. You would say, okay, because for the last 2 years you've been paying on time. And so the further back it goes, the less impact it has. Okay. Right? So if you close that card, though, you won't have the opportunity to change your habits and show people that, look, I've corrected my way, or I got back on my feet, or, because a lot of times people don't fall into these problems because they willfully do it. Right. They get laid off from their job. Yes. They get sick and they get medical bills. Their child gets sick, and they got to redirect that funds to take care of something that's important. And they got to make a choice: do I pay that credit card or do I pay that medical bill? Right. And so, but they're good people. Yes. And then when they finally got it together, their husband's back on his feet. Now we got both these incomes. 2 years goes by, now it's helping them, so don't close those credit cards.
Okay. I want to give a tip on that. So when you have a credit card, right, and you have a budget. Okay. So use your credit card based on your budget. So if you were spending $200 worth of gas a month, put the gas on your credit card and pay the credit card. Because what you will find out is that if you go ahead and take your credit cards and use the money you would ordinarily spend. And a lot of times it's good to not even have money on you like that, right? Yes. So you're saying, I have this money in the bank. I got paid today. I know that my bills this month is going to be $1,500. I'm going to use my credit card because, like Edwin said, it gives you the creditors an opportunity to see that you're using it. You're not just sitting there. Yes. But it gives me an opportunity to know that I'm not going to go over because I have that money. Yes. I'm going to pay my credit cards off. And one of the things that I learned about, like you said, being able to have your credit card limits be raised. So as you're paying them off and they're seeing that you're doing that, then at some point in time, like Edwin said, you can get to the point where you have $10,000 worth of credit sitting out there. Yes. So as he goes on, remember I told you have to have a plan. So if you had a great business plan, don't use your $10,000 yet. Christian offers. Wait till you get a solid plan, but at least that solid plan, when you do utilize that money, you're using it at a lower risk because you have a plan that you're saying, I know if I put $10,000 on this, I'm going to make some money back.
Yes. Now you gave us one of the 8 points, and we only have a few minutes left.
Right.
If our viewers want to get copies of the book or contact either one of you, how can they do that?
Sure. They can, contact me by emailing me.
Okay.
So you can email me at edwinavent@gmail.com, and you can get a copy of our ebook at edwinavent@gmail.com. And if you need credit score help, there's a variety of services out there. One of them that they could go to is AmericanDreamCredit.net. AmericanDreamCredit.net is a service that they could go to and get advice on how they can actually increase their credit. Okay.
All right. And
wow, I didn't know that we was running out of time because we're so used to our show. But that's okay. But you can reach me, Ertha Harris at ErthaHarris@gmail.com. And like Lynn said, you guys are always welcome to come on the Tight Knit Radio Show. We come on Mondays at 10 o'clock on WOLB 1010. We love to have offers on there. Lynn has a segment for you guys, so definitely check us out.
And we only have like 1 minute left. And so if you had to leave some advice for an author or aspiring author, what would that be in terms of finance?
I would say get control of your credit. All right, and the way you do it is I outlined the different things that they look at in the FICO scoring model. But the top two things, if there was anything that I would say, the top two things is try to address your payment history. And so there's things that you can do. It's say if you got collection accounts, right? Don't just go ahead and pay off the collections. Call that collection agency and say, look, I can't afford to pay you the $10,000, but I do have $4,000, 40 cents on the dollar. Will you take that? And if you will you report, when you take this off of my credit report, you want to try and negotiate that off. Because if they're not going to take it off, it's not even worth you paying it, almost in some respects, because it's going to stay on your credit report. They'll take your money and let it stay there. You need to negotiate with them to try and remove those negative items. But pay your stuff on time and keep those balances low.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. This was great. This
Yes.
was great. Thank you. Thank you, Christian Authors on Tour.
Yes, and want to thank you for tuning in to the Christian Authors on Tour TV show. Wow, this was a great segment. And the fifth Friday, whenever there's a month that has 5 Fridays, we will always have an author resource day. So today was focused on finance. If you're an author, if you're an aspiring author, hopefully this information will be helpful to you. You can follow up if you have questions. www.christianauthorsontour.com. Give us a call, 800-929-1418. Until next time, God bless.